guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be another conspiracy theories that I'm too afraid to talk about or too afraid to believe video. I love filming these videos because some of these conspiracy theories freak me out so damn much that like the thought of actually them being real is what genuinely scares me. But before we get into it, I would love to thank Handy for sponsoring today's video. So Handy is the easiest and most convenient way to connect people like you and me with service professionals who provide home cleaning and handyman services. Love having a clean house, but I honestly don't really like cleaning that much. It takes way too long for me to do it, and this is just so much of an easier way. It's a quick service and the entire house is clean. My experience with Handy has been super amazing. The cleaners came on time. The house was incredibly clean, like deep cleaned. It was so great, and I was even able to book it and have them come the next day, like literally the day after I booked it. So convenient because it's literally just through an app. It is so easy. I love it. It's definitely improved my daily life so much more because in the time that I'm normally spent cleaning the house, I can be doing work and getting videos done for you guys, so it's definitely been super helpful. And I love it because, like I said, you can get it so fast, so you can book it and have it as early as the next day between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. So it is perfect because I know a lot of people have weird hours, so it pretty much has the entire day available for these cleanings, so that's super convenient. I also love with Handy that you can use cleaning plans, so you can schedule a cleaning for weekly, bi-weekly, or even monthly, however often you feel like you need your house cleaned. It is super customizable in that way, and of course you can also reschedule anytime if needed. You're always going to be having a great experience with Handy because the cleaners are background checked and also rated by customers to ensure quality. I love that if you love the professional that came to your house, you can book them again for future cleanings or future like handyman services, so that's super helpful. But also, if you weren't satisfied with the quality of service, Handy will book you another professional free of charge. So that is super great and honestly really cool of them. Professionals also do daily checkups in the app to make sure that they're feeling good. Obviously in the time of coronavirus, it's super important. They're also completely equipped with PPE, having masks and gloves throughout the entire time. So they keep it very coronavirus safe, which is really great. So if you want to try out Handy, you can get your first 3-hour cleaning for only $39 when you sign up for a cleaning plan. Terms apply. So you can click the link in the description box below to check them out and find out more information. But seriously, I recommend it. My home is super clean and I'm obsessed with it. Without further ado, let's get into the conspiracy theories. So the first conspiracy theory that we're going to be talking about revolves around alien abduction. I hate that I'm even talking about this because it is something that freaks me out genuinely so much because I don't have an explanation. I think that it's real, and that's what scares me. So I've talked about aliens before in general, but I never really got into alien invasion on my channel because alien invasion is one of the conspiracy theories that I have just blatantly ignored in my mind. Like I would literally, anytime I would hear anything about it, I would just be like, oh, it's not real. It doesn't make sense. It's so fake, like obviously. Until I was watching Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, as usual. They had an entire story about alien invasion. It's one of those things where now that I've heard it and I've actually listened to the stories, I can't ignore the fact that I really do think that alien invasion is a thing, and it's really scary. So let's talk about what happened on September 1st of 1969. So the story follows several different people from Berkshire, Massachusetts, who experienced the same thing on September 1st, 1969. The instances that these people experienced is truly unexplainable. But in short, many people around the area, there were even like actual 911 calls claiming that they had seen this like UFO. Like it was basically a bright light, and a lot of people described it as a like spaceship that was hovering. Like it was a UFO. That's what people said they saw. And it was people from all around like that area of Massachusetts, and it was people who weren't connected to each other. That's weird on its own. But then there's also several people who from that night had experiences of actually being abducted by aliens. First, we're going to talk about a boy named Tom Reed who was driving home with his family. His mother was driving, his grandmother was in the passenger seat, and he was in the back seat of the car. Just like a lot of the other reports of seeing this object, they saw a bright orange light and something like hovering, and then he describes remembering being felt like he was underwater, which is really freaking scary. The entire family went completely unconscious and then woke up hours later. The ignition was off, like I said, hours had passed by, and the weirdest part is that the grandmother was now in the driver's seat, which you may think maybe she was just driving before and they didn't know what they were talking about. But the grandma doesn't drive. But she's at that age, I guess, where she was not driving like ever and would never drive and probably couldn't drive anymore. Like, how would you explain that? If that happened to you, how the hell could you tell me that that's not, like, how would you explain that? How? Why would the grandma be in the driver's seat? Like, I can't. It scares me so much because I literally don't have another explanation. Like, another similar story came from a boy named Tom Warner, who was 10 years old at the time. Tom was at his neighbor Jane Shaw's house when he looked out the window because it was getting dark outside, and he heard a voice say, "You need to go home now." And he literally got so scared that he ran home, and as he was running home, a spaceship was hovering over him with a light directly beaming on him. And Jane Shaw remembers seeing this as well, and after she saw him, you know, standing there with the light beaming over him, he completely disappeared. Obviously Jane was freaking out, but 7 minutes later he reappeared, but like was completely on the other side of that property, like nowhere near where he got like picked up. And obviously it was a pretty confusing and traumatic experience for all of them. I like literally cannot believe that that happened. Like, I mean, I say that I can't believe it, but like, it's so weird that these are different people who don't know each other having similar experiences all on the same night. Another girl named Melanie was just 12 years old when a similar story happened to her. Her and her family were actually eating Dairy Queen at Lake Mansfield, which is only 2 miles away from the house of the previous boy's story. As her father was like parking the car, she remembers that they all saw this like really crazy bright light once again and this unidentified flying object. Melanie claims that she remembers the entire car levitating and then being on a spaceship. Tom from the previous story claims that he remembers seeing Melanie on the ship as well, but she doesn't really remember seeing him specifically. She does remember being in a room with a bunch of other children, and then all of a sudden the children would just disappear one by one. And when she woke back up, she was at Lake Mansfield but completely by herself, and she had to walk home. Like, imagine if that literally happened to you. I just can't. I hate that I believe it because I don't have any other option. Like, it's literally like I don't know. One of those things that's unexplainable, and I don't like that. Important to note that Melanie and Tom did not know each other beforehand, but when they met, they both felt an instant connection to one another, like they had known each other, even though they hadn't. Even though Tom like remembers seeing Melanie's face, but Melanie didn't remember that, and she still felt that instant connection to him. It's just so weird that all of these, you know, these three people have these similar experiences. They didn't know each other beforehand. And all of these people, like there were several accounts of people saying that they saw this UFO. Like, the fact that that happened is so crazy to me, because how the hell do you explain that? Like, I don't. All on the same night. It's not like it was spread over a period of time. Alien abduction real? Like, I don't know. Like, I would say it's definitely a conspiracy I'm too scared to believe, because if it is real, what the hell? But if it's not, also what the hell? Like, obviously I guess you could just write it off and say that these people, you know, are making it up and they just want money and they didn't actually get abducted by aliens or anything. But I mean, I don't like that. That's even less believable, which is why it scares me so much. But I'm still gonna pretend like they just made it up, because otherwise I will cry. Think about how many people go missing and never return. What if they're just like in space? Like, it sounds so dumb, but like it's also like, I don't know. But I think that the fact that I don't have any other explanation other than the fact that these were alien abductions is what makes this conspiracy theory too scary to believe. All right, the next conspiracy theory that I'm gonna talk about, I guess I'm gonna try to go as vague as I can, but with still explaining it, because there are a lot of deep conspiracies that kind of go throughout this conspiracy theory in general, if that makes sense. And some of them are just too dark for me to talk about. Kind of generally, Illuminati is the general what I'm talking about right now. And the reason is because I've noticed like a common theme on TV shows and movies that involved very, very rich, powerful people. Not necessarily like in a clique or group or anything like that, but it's basically just rich people getting away with doing very shitty things. This happens very commonly on movies and TV shows. Pay attention to almost every single TV show and movie has someone that has like a lot of money or power. Like they get away with literally murder sometimes, like crazy stuff. I think it would be naive to think that this didn't happen in real life, that the powerful, most richest people in the world can't get away with things like that. Like, if that makes sense, I think it would almost be stupid to think that. And that's why I hate it, because I like to believe that everyone will be good. I hate that I'm so naive sometimes when it comes to stuff like that. But it's like, I do have faith in humanity slightly. I'm literally about to quote Halloween Town. Mortal see, mortal do. It's October, so it's fine. But like, it's true. Like when we see things, that's what we put into our movies and TV shows. So I really do think that these are things that actually do happen. And that kind of leads me into like the Illuminati theory. I've talked about the Illuminati a few times and how I don't really believe that it is celebrities, because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, Beyonce is in the Illuminati and all these, like Kim Kardashian and stuff. Like, no, like that's not how I see it if it was a real thing. I think that if anything, it's more deep rooted than that. And I used to say like government and stuff, and I do definitely still think that the government is probably corrupt, allegedly, but I also more so think that it has to be deeper than that, because there's no way it's just government so blanket statement that like that doesn't even make sense. It has to be, if there's a secret society of people who are all powerful, all knowing, and have all this fucking money and can get away with literally anything, it has to be like a worldwide situation, which I guess is why people call it like the one world order and stuff. But I just think that there's no way that this doesn't exist in some aspect, and I hate that I am even saying that, because I hate this. I hate the conspiracy theory about the Illuminati. I really do, and people get annoyed with me that I hate it, and I feel bad, but it's like, it's almost ignorant to think that something like this doesn't exist. And it might sound so simple to you to be like, yeah, like obviously. It is actually really horrifying when you truly, truly think about it, that money and power could possibly, first of all, get you anything, get you anywhere, and let you do anything. That's horrifying. Like, because obviously the general population does not have that kind of power. It's just scary to think what that population that does have that kind of power and money are capable of. And it really freaks me out. And I guess I'm not gonna go too far into like what that could be, but because it scares me so much, and I would say I'm too scared to believe it, because even right now I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, no, probably doesn't exist. But in my head I'm like, I just think it's kind of dumb to think it doesn't, but I don't know. I'm way too scared to actually fully be like, oh, 100% this exists. But what do you guys think? The last conspiracy theory, y'all gonna have to stick with me on this. I promise you I'm not high. I can sit there and think about this theory and literally feel like I'm losing my mind. It's a fucked up theory, and that's why I kind of really haven't talked about it too much on my channel, and it's the theory that life is a simulation. I have no way of knowing that this isn't true, so then part of me will always kind of believe it. I guess the reason that it freaks me out so much is because it usually sends me into a literal existential crisis. So the way that I explain this theory to, I guess, other people, like when I talk to my friends about it, is that I consider myself to be religious. I believe that there is a higher power. But even if you don't, even if you do, even if you are strictly any type of religion, there is still no explanation. And let me explain what I mean by that. So, for example, let's start off, if you believe in science, which you should, for the universe, for the planets, for us, they have, you know, the Big Bang Theory and also evolution and all that good stuff that obviously definitely happened. And for example, like, I know people who are religious and who still believe in science. They just believe that this higher power or this God created, you know, the Big Bang Theory and created all of this, the universe and everything, so that this all could happen, and gave the elements and, you know, the evolution, like all this stuff. Like, they basically believe that this higher power created that. But then of course there are people who only believe in science, who just think that that happened. which either way, I guess it still happened. And then obviously there's people who are religious and only believe their God or their higher power created the entire universe, created everything, created humans. I guess some people believe in Adam and Eve. No matter what way you slice it, there's still no explanation as to where it all came from. Have the explanation as to where we came from and where the universe came from and like how the planets all got here and everything. But no matter which way you believe, there's no explanation as to how it happened. If you believe in a higher power or a God, where do you think that the God came from? Like, it never talks about that. I'll just ignore that, and that freaks me out. Like, where did it come from? Who created God? If you are strictly science, who created the means for the Big Bang Theory to happen? Like, how, like, what, like, we are like literally nothing. Like, if you think about it, like, it's like, how did everything come from nothing? You know what I mean? Regardless of what you believe happened and how we got here, there's still no explanation as to how the first thing, whatever that may be in your beliefs, got here. If that makes sense. So if it's God, how did God get here? Still no answer. If it's just the science and the Big Bang Theory, like, how did that happen? How did it start? Where did anything actually ever come from? And there's just no answer. So sometimes I think that it makes more sense that absolutely everything is just in our heads. This is also kind of weird because I've talked about this slightly, because I've talked about the idea that, like, when you're not with the people who you know in life, that nothing actually happens with them because they like only exist in your head. And it's definitely something that fucks me up if I think about it too hard. Like, if I think about my friends, I'm like, what if they're not actually existing? Like, they're not doing anything. They only exist when I like write them into my storyline, like, basically, like if I'm talking to them. It's really fucked up to think about. I don't think like life is a giant Sims game, I guess. It's more so, if anything, if it's anything other than what we think it is. Like, it's but a dream, it's all in your head. Like, I don't know. Which I think makes people feel like there's no point to life. With that attitude, if it is a simulation, then you should be, you know, trying to live your best life, because life's what you make it, so let's make it rock. Hannah Montana. Like, if it's all in your head, then I guess you would have the power to change it more than you think you do. It kind of falls into like the idea of manifestation and like believing that the universe is like, the world is your oyster. If you do believe that life is a simulation, then that means it's up to you to make it matter and to make your, I don't know, live your life to the best of your ability. That's what I have to say about it. And that's how I kind of deal with these situations, is knowing that I'll never know, so I'm just gonna like go with it. I just think that the idea of not existing is really scary, but I don't know. That is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these conspiracy theories. Do they freak you out? Do you have any conspiracy theories that you are too scared to believe? Let me know in the comments below. But that is it. Thank you again to Handy for sponsoring this video. Like I said, if you guys want to get your first 3-hour cleaning for only $39 when you sign up for a cleaning plan, definitely click the link in my description box below, and remember, terms apply, so you can find more information at the link in the description box below. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram, because I'm always posting really dope ass shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye!